Hello everyone, welcome back to our Bible story channel. Today we having Samson's Bible story. So stay put together and let's listen and learn. The mighty Samson, a tale of strength and wisdom. In the ancient land of Israel, during a time of great turmoil, there lived a couple named Manoah and his wife, who longed for a child. The wife was barren and childless. One day, an angel appeared to Manoah's wife with a message from God. Look, you are barren and childless, but you will conceive and give birth to a son. Now be careful not to drink wine or anything alcoholic. Also, do not eat anything unclean. No razor should touch his head, because the child will be a Nazirite of God from birth, and he will take the lead of saving the Israelites out of the hand of the Philistines. Manoah's wife ran to tell her husband, and they both prayed for guidance. Manoah prayed and pleaded with God to send the angel once more so that he could give him instructions on what to do with the child. The angel appeared again. When the wife was sitting in the fields, the woman ran quickly to fetch his husband. Manoah met the angel and asked what was to be the rule that governs the boy's life and work. The angel asked them to do what he had initially instructed them. Manoah requested the angel to stay so that they could prepare for him a goat, but the angel asked them to offer it as offerings to the Lord, for he will not eat. Then Manoah took the young goat and grains and offered them as offerings to God. As the flame ascended to heaven as a sign that the offerings had been accepted, the angel of the Lord ascended up with it. The couple rejoiced, and soon, a baby boy was born. They named him Samson, which means sunlight, for he brought light into their lives. As Samson grew, his parents noticed his extraordinary strength. Even as a toddler, he could lift objects much heavier than himself. His parents knew he was destined for greatness. Samson grew up in his hometown, a place filled with rolling hills and lush fields. From a young age, it was clear that he was no ordinary child. His strength was extraordinary, and he performed feats that amazed everyone. He once tore apart a lion with his bare hands, and another time, he carried the massive gates of a city on his shoulders. His parents reminded him daily of his vow to God and the importance of his uncut hair. Samson knew he had a special purpose, and he was determined to fulfill it. He spent his days helping his family and neighbors, using his strength to protect his village from wild animals and bandits. Samson's heart was also tender. He fell in love with a woman. His parents were against the marriage because she was from the Philistines, but Samson persisted until the parents gave in. One day, Samson together with his parents went down to Timnah to fetch her wife. While walking through the vineyards of Timnah, Samson was all alone. Samson encountered a young lion. The lion roared and charged at him, but Samson, filled with the Spirit of the Lord, grabbed the lion and tore it apart with his bare hands. He didn't tell anyone about this incredible feat, but it was a sign of the great things to come. He joined his parents and went to speak to his wife. Later, when he was taking his wife home, he turned aside to look at the dead body of the lion. There in the lion carcass, there was a swarm of bees and honey. He scraped the honey out into his hands and ate. When he rejoined his parents, he gave them some honey to eat as well, but did not mention he had scraped it out of a lion's carcass. When they got back home, Samson held a banquet and 30 groomsmen accompanied him. He told them a riddle, and anyone that was to get it right, he will be rewarded heavily, and if they couldn't get it, they were to reward him instead, but no one could get it right. They went to Samson's wife and asked her to trick the husband into telling her the answer to the riddle. Also, they threatened to burn her and her father's house. She went to Samson and kept nagging him about the answer. Samson was adamant. He even said he had not told his parents yet, then why should he tell her? She kept nagging him and crying for the rest of the 7 days of the banquet, until he gave in and told her. She ran as fast as her legs could carry her and told them the response to the riddle. The men gave the response and won against Samson. Samson came to find out and he was very mad, and later his wife was given away to one of the groomsmen. Days went by and Samson went to get her wife back, but she had already been married off to one of the groomsmen. He was convinced to take her younger sister, who was even more attractive, but he couldn't take it. He was very angry, and he took 300 foxes and lit fire on their tails. Then he sent them out to the fields. They burnt down everything from sheaf to standing grain, as well as the vineyards and olive groves. The Philistines were very bitter and they revenged by burning the wives and her father. Then things got worse. Samson was extra mad and he also planned a revenge on the Philistines. He struck them down, one by one, then he went and stayed in a cave. 3,000 men of Judah came up to him, so that they could capture him, and give him to the Philistines, because the Philistines were ruling over them. Samson agreed to go with them in the condition that they are not the ones to torture him. The men of Judah mentioned they will give him to the Philistines instead. He was tied with 2 new ropes, and taken down to the Philistines. Once he was in the hands of the Philistines, he was filled with God's Spirit and he was empowered and the ropes fell off his hands. He took a donkey's jawbone and struck 1,000 men. After the fight, he became very thirsty and he asked God whether he would die cause of thirst in front of the Philistines. Then God split a hollow and water flowed from it. Samson drank and he was full of strength. Samson fell in love once more with a woman named Delilah. Delilah was beautiful and charming, and Samson trusted her completely. Delilah lived in the valley of Sorek, and Samson would often visit her, bringing her gifts and sharing stories of his adventures. The Philistine leaders, desperate to defeat Samson, approached Delilah with a tempting offer. She was to find out the secret of his strength and they will each give her 1,100 pieces of silver. Delilah, enticed by the promise of wealth, agreed to betray Samson. Unbeknownst to Samson, the Philistine leaders had bribed Delilah to discover the secret of his strength. Night after night, she coaxed him, pleading to know his secret. Of what makes him so strong and how can he be bound and subdued? At first, Samson teased her with false answers. That if he was bound with 7 fresh bowstrings that have not been dried, he will become weak. But when the Philistines tried this, Samson easily broke free. Delilah continued to press him, and Samson continued to deceive her with false answers. Finally, after many attempts, Delilah wore Samson down. She asked her how he could say he loved him and he wouldn't confide in her. Samson, weary of her persistence, revealed his secret that his strength lied in his hair and if it is cut, he will become as weak as any other man. That night, as Samson slept on Delilah's knees, Delilah called a man and cut off his 7 braids on his head. The Philistines seized him, pulled out his eyes, and took him to their prison. They mocked him and forced him to grind grain in the prison, a task meant for the weakest of slaves. Blinded and imprisoned, Samson's spirit was not broken. He prayed to God for strength one last time. During a grand celebration in a Philistine temple, where there were 3,000 Philistines, Samson was brought out to entertain the crowd. He asked a boy to help him touch the pillars so as to support himself and rest. He stood between the pillars of the temple and prayed to God. He asked God to strengthen him just once more so as to revenge on the Philistines for his 2 eyes. With a mighty push, Samson brought down the pillars, shouting that God should let him die with the Philistines. The temple collapsed and defeated more people in the temple than he has ever defeated in his life. His brothers and all his father's family came for him and went to bury him. Though he perished in the act, his sacrifice saved his people. Samson's final act was one of great strength and courage, fulfilling his destiny as a deliverer of Israel. Samson's life was a testament to the power of faith and the consequences of betrayal. His story teaches us the importance of staying true to our values and seeking redemption when we falter. Samson's strength was not just in his muscles, but in his unwavering faith and dedication to his purpose. As we reflect on Samson's journey, we learn that true strength comes from within. It is not just physical power, but the strength of character, faith, and determination. Samson's story reminds us that even in our darkest moments, we can find redemption and fulfill our purpose. I hope you learned a lot and enjoyed the story. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.